We often admire people's successes, but never take the time to explore their challenges. Talk to Lady brings out the inside stories of the peaks and valleys of our daily struggles. A weekly show that features people and stories from all walks of life.
I probably don't look like I chopped cotton or picked cotton, but I did. And now this is a $500,000 probably home, up to $500,000 home.
You'll hear success stories from rags to riches that will inspire you to aspire to be great. Be the first to know, only on LSTV1.
Hello viewers, it's your girl again, Ladybug, and this is your Talk to Lady show, coming to you live on LSTV1 with your presenter, Ladybug. My special guest today is a very special one. He is the owner and founder of Paradise TV Gambia, Mr. Harona Drammeh. Haruna, welcome to Talk to Lady show.
Thank you, lady. It's a pleasure being here.
Let's get into the interview proper. But before we do that, who is Haruna? School background, where are you from, and things like that, for those that do not know who Haruna is.
I don't know. It's very difficult to introduce oneself. I find it very difficult. It's one of the questions I dread all the time. My name is Harona Drammeh. My mother is from Sukuta. My dad is from Latrikunda. I'm Sarahule. Yeah.
Well, that is good. So what did Haruna partake in as far as curricular activities in school or when you were young growing up?
I did not do, I didn't have much of a childhood per se. I was a firstborn, and my mother protected me so much, but also wanted me to be very close to her in helping with household chores, etc. So by the time I matured and had to go to high school, I didn't know how to play football. I didn't know how to play basketball. I didn't know how to do the games that the guys knew how to do. So it was very difficult for me to adapt in high school. But then you'll find out I know how to do all household chores. I know how to cook very well. I know how to clean. I know how to do laundry. I know how to do ironing. I know how to do everything else. In the Akupa lands, I was Ospikin growing up, so I know everything about the house and not anything about games that young people played my age at the time. No.
What can you cook best? Because I know every man would say, I cook domada because they think it's easier to cook. But what can you cook best?
The people who say domada are the people who, after growing up, becoming an adult, and out of circumstances are forced to cook. Those are the people who cook domada. And most of them will cook chicken domada because it's easier to cook. Now, I find myself to be a pro. I've cooked at home for the whole family so many times growing up. I used to do these days with my mom. She'll cook certain days and I'll cook other days. And I've done that from primary school. So if I say I'm a cook, I'm really a very good cook. Not the boys that go to America and then look behind you, no sister, no mother, nobody. Oh, okay, let me try to cook for myself. I'm not those. I really know how to cook proper.
Awesome. Well, I hope Talk to Lady will one day have the chance to taste your cooking, hopefully. Coming back to your post-secondary school, I believe you did it in the Gambia, but did you at any point transition to go study abroad like many other kids will do at the time?
Well, I did 3 primary schools. Product of a divorce sometimes is very difficult, which houses you stay and what you do. So yes, I did a bit of Sukuta primary, a bit of Latrikunda Danso, a little bit of SOS Haman Minor primary. And then I ended up at St. Augustine's where I did all levels and also A levels. And, got into the media while I was in high school. Then I did a bit of education in the US, in Detroit, Michigan. I didn't have the sort of qualifications I wanted to have for so many reasons that I don't want to go into. But yes, I did a bit of education abroad.
And I believe after your studies in Michigan, you decided to just go back home, Gambia to be specific.
Yes, I've lived in Gambia ever since, yes.
And since you went back home, what motivated your return? And since you got back home in the Gambia, what was the first thing that you decided to go into or do?
One of the things that the United States does for a person, it serves as a major eye-opener in anything you do. And I keep telling people, just being in the United States itself is education by itself. It has exposed me to a lot of ideas, to a lot of opportunities. At that time, I've seen children who were millionaires in the US, and I've seen people my age who are doing wonders. So the inspiration was huge in the US. But then I went to the US with the primary reason of coming back home. I never went to stay. That wasn't any of my plans at any point in time. Anyone who knew me will tell you that, well, he's here, but he's going to go home. So when I packed up to come back, a lot of people didn't believe I was going to come back home. But yes, here I am coming back home. So I went prepared to return.
Wow, which is totally different. Nowadays, if you ask anybody, they'll be like, oh, I want to stay in the Europe or America or other part of the world. But I guess everybody has a preference and a decision to make at some point in your life. Coming back to Haruna, when we say Harona Drammeh, many Gambians that side of you would say Harona Drammeh GRTS. Is that correct? What was the experience like whenever you hear Harona Drammeh GRTS? Because people associate you with GRTS, of course. How do you feel?
I left GRTS almost 20 years ago now. And it's interesting that to this day, people still reference me as Harona Drammeh GRTS. I mean, this is a fact. From the police officer in traffic to some government offices, oh, GRTS. And I still say yes. GRTS played an incredible role in my life. And yes, I guess it didn't start my media journey, actually. My media journey began from Radio 1 FM. But GRTS was the medium that gave visuals to who we were. So a lot of people who knew us on radio didn't know who we really were. Some of them will meet us on the streets and will not know who we were. But GRTS, because it was television, it did give us a lot more popularity, and then people could put name to face. And that experience has still been very valuable to me to this day in the Gambia.
What was your role when you started GRTS? What were some of the things that you do there?
Starting GRTS, that's a very interesting question, Jamie. When we started GRTS, firstly, because of my involvement with Lenderham Society, the peer health, I do a lot of extracurricular activities with the young people at the time. I was very involved. My first appearance on GRTS, I wasn't a staff. I was working and being a guest on the youth show with Nana Ama Ogontola or Fatou Sane and the likes before I actually became staff. So a lot of people saw me at GRTS pretty much from day one, but I wasn't staff then. And when we also started, we started at what they call casuals. Starting as a casual at GRTS is one of the most horrible things any person would do, especially at our time. We were casuals and we were Gamtel casuals. That makes it worse. Not only were we paid $700 a month, yes, $700 a month, but you had to also join the queue at Telegraph Road in Banjul at Gamtel House. So all the riggers and the daily laborers of Gamtel, you were in long queues. I remember, I'm not sure I should name names, but some of my colleagues at GRTS at the time, we would let our salaries sit there sometimes for 2 months, 3 months at a time and not go collect it. Because Gamtel had a huge staff, especially daily laborers. So sometimes you'll be in a queue with these riggers, and some of them are so dirty, some are wearing overalls, and you were a TV star, you know, those people. So you will be in a queue of 200, 300 people, and sometimes the queue will come out of Gamtel House, will come all the way to around the roundabout there, and it was such a challenge. So that's how I started GRTS. It was not a pretty sight.
Wow, must be interesting. I really want to know the full details of that. Hopefully next time, but it's really interesting to hear that. Because I mean, we started way later after you guys' time, so we did not have that experience.
You guys enjoyed.
Fast forward to 2002, if I'm correct, you started Mediamatic, and then the next minute you started Paradise TV. What motivated the move? to be on your own, to stand on your own and do things on your own?
Well, like I said, while I was in the US, I had a lot of exposure, a lot of experience, and you see how people will create something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You will study your peers, your colleagues, and you will see some of them will just take a major risk and then make good life out of it.
Right.
If you study the stories of Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, you will realize they were pretty much the regular Joes, but they had a vision and they acted on that vision.
Right.
So for me, to bring about change in my life, in my circumstances, I will have to also embark on a journey of self-discovery, of exploration, and a journey where I feel I can make a difference. And therefore, when I returned from the US, it wasn't Mediamatic I started with. I started with a restaurant. And the restaurant was called Fine Wine and Dine. It's Kairaba Avenue, almost opposite the German clinic, next to the Pipeline Mosque, where Titanic used to be. You guys would not remember Titanic. It's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
That's what I started with, really. I was selling shawarmas, burgers, and the regular. I told you I'm a very good cook, by the way. So, yes, I started with the restaurant business. And for a few, almost 2 years, it wasn't a few years, almost 2 years, it failed. It failed very seriously because I have a lot of friends. And then a lot of my friends will come, they will eat, and they will sign bills. So they will not pay. So
Okay.
after the failure of Fine Wine and Dine, to an effect, I closed it because I was owed a lot more money outside than I was able to make. And it didn't make sense to continue the business. So
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, well, I have to go into what I know, which was media. At the time when we started Mediamatic, a lot of people did not believe that media will grow, that people like Lady Bach today will have a platform where they can interview, that there will be people making music videos of Gambian artists and music, that
Right.
people will film dramas and make movies, and that there will be a Paradise TV or a QTV or a Star TV. I mean, all of those things did not exist at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered when I bought my first computer, which a very good brother of mine actually bought for me, Amadou Samba. I went to him and we had a discussion. And I remember him telling me at the time, 2002, $60,000. At the time, it was about $3,000.
Oh,
That how much I needed for one computer. And
wow.
Amadou was like, "You are out of your mind. Who spent so much money on one computer? I can get you 3 or 4 computers." I said, "No, it's not just a computer. This is a supercomputer. I want to be able to edit, do videos." And it was so tough, lady, I'll tell you, to convince Amadou Samba to part with $60,000 in those days. And because it was such a lot of money, it was a lot of money. And then he made me promise. So I got it from Cube Electronics, JC Jeng. At the time, he had Cube Electronics. He also came back from Norway and was starting a business on Kairaba Avenue. That's where Harris Supermarket is now.
Right.
Well, actually, now Staples. So we did a lot of exploration starting Mediamatic. So it was such a guinea pig experience, exploration. Tijan Jaite was there. Tijan Silla, actually. Tijan Silla was there as a young guy also trying to put the computers. If I tell you we pieced that computer piece by piece to create an editing computer, you will not believe it.
Wow.
But that's how Mediamatic began. And I love the story. A lot of people at the time felt I was making the biggest mistake of my life. That I had a stable job at GRTS, that I was traveling with my president, that I was going all over the world. I had opportunities, I had stability of employment, that it did not make sense to try to venture into something that risky. I tell you, fast forward another 20 years, I will do it all over again.
Wow. In life, we all have to take risk. It depends on how the outcome is. But then again, if you started a restaurant business, let me ask you this. You started a restaurant business and it failed.
Yes.
Anybody would have just give up and try to do something else or just sit back and relax. But you did not give up. You tried to go into something else. What's the secret?
There's no secret. I have a belief, and I have a very strong belief. I tell people I'm a cow. If I focus on a direction, I have tunnel vision for that direction. That's what I want. And I go for it. I make sure I do my best. I don't cheat in terms of putting myself out there, in terms of doing the hours, in terms of applying the effort, in terms of using my network and use every opportunity to succeed in a venture. So once I hit the wall and I know for sure this will not have any future from this point onwards, I console myself with the fact that I had done my best, absolutely. And there was nothing extra I could have done. That this was a failure. I come to terms with the failure. And then I reinvent the will to start a new journey and have a new tunnel vision to achieve success in that journey. That's how I work.
For all the international viewers that do watch us, tell us what were the services that Mediamatic was offering at the time? Because Mediamatic, of course, I believe was your baby at the time because you took the chance, you took the risk. What were some of the services that it was offering?
Well, we wanted to provide an alternative service, and GRTS was there as a state broadcaster. The country had only one television station, and it didn't make sense. Having returned from the US and seeing cable companies such as Comcast dropping one cable in your house, you have high-speed internet, you have a telephone line, you have a television, and then you put your remote on, you have access to over 200 channels. Then you come home to Gambia, you had one channel, one station. And I know with certainty it's a question of time. But there'll come a time when there'll be television stations in Gambia, when there will be private television stations, when there will be more radio stations, and when there will be platforms like yours. It was a question I knew with certainty. A lot of people did not see the vision that I had, but I knew for sure that today would come. I didn't know how long it was going to take before we would get to it, but I wanted to get a first mover advantage, be the first person to invest in it, to be ready, to be on the racing lane and start the race. If whoever joins later, I would have been ahead of them. So this was one of my biggest dreams at the time to do with Mediamatic. So we started very, very small. That computer is what I had in my guest bedroom, and I had a couple of boys at the time. But the vision was that, okay, we will start a business and this business will get an opportunity to grow. So we started this one of the reasons why I love Gambian music and why I still push the young people in the music industry was the fact that it was music that I actually started with doing music videos. I was primarily single-handedly doing all music videos in the country, with the exception of S.R. Jallo at the time, who was doing some music videos at GRTS. Rodin Rena did also one or two music videos at the time. Apart from that, if I am not mistaken, I think I was the only one doing music videos. So I was pretty much doing almost 100% of all music videos at the time. I also started to do commercials for businesses, for shops and the formal businesses, banks, and the likes. Keep note that the Gambia is such a small country, especially for those that are watching and listening outside of the Gambia. That everybody knows everybody primarily. I mean, it's very difficult to do business in Gambia because advertising, especially, everybody knows where Jimpex is. Everybody knows who Batimat is. Everybody knows who Kasem is. Everybody knows who QCell is. Everybody knows Africell. Everybody knows everybody and everywhere you need to go to look for what you're going to get.
True.
So at the time, especially, so the bulk of the monies that we make at the time was from artists. And we know the artists didn't have money. Sometimes we'll do a music video, somebody will give you $500. You'll do a music video for $1,000 or $2,000, and it will take somebody 2-3 weeks to pay you back after the video is done. So the NGO community also, we did a lot of documentaries for them, especially at the end of project cycles, when they want to give evidence to donors, international, about what they have done. So we did a little bit of work in documentaries and also showing projects in the rural Gambia and in the communities and having visuals to this, which was pretty good. So primarily, these were the things that we were doing. And then we also started doing a little bit of events and a little of trainings with young people here and there, which is one of my biggest successes. And I'm very proud of that, that I have trained pretty much everybody in the multimedia industry in the Gambia, directly or indirectly. And this is what we did, lady, with Mediamatic in the beginning.
Wow, it's great. And
Yeah.
coming back to operating under the former regime, we all know freedom of speech was, of course, very, sniff, if I may use that word. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you deal with the condition operating a radio station in the Gambia at that time?
I actually never had any problems with the government. I'm not going to be one of those people who would lie about how situations were.
Mhm,
I never had any incident with Gambian police or NIA in relation to my job
mhm,
until December of 2016 when I had an incident and my radio station was shut down. But
mhm,
before then, I never really had any interference with the way I operated or I did my business. There was never a point that I got a call from State House or from the NIA or from any agency in the country to say, be careful or don't do such programming. It never happened. But then again,
mhm.
I think also we were aware, and I have worked in the system to understand the system well enough. I think maybe that also did help me, that I did a career at GRTS and I know how things operated. Perhaps that's also the reason that I know my limitations, what I could do or not do. I don't know, but perhaps this was the reason why I could succeed as much as I did with what was happening.
Like my Mandinka sayers will say, Nisi koto buka tinya. So you definitely know your stuff and you know how to do it well. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Again, going back to Paradise FM now. I mean, we Paradise FM has so many shows, programs that they air on online. One of the, shows that stood out at the time was Mandinka show with Alaji Bora and them guys. What happened to that show?
Well, when we started in 2009, that's when we started the radio.
Mm-hmm.
We started testing signals in 2008, but officially launched January 1st, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
When we started, radio wasn't what I wanted, really, lady. And I always wanted television. It wasn't radio that I wanted. But a former colleague, a former boss of mine was Minister of Communications at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Dana McDowell-Gay. And she rallied us to come back to GRTS and let's do a show a week or two,
Mm-hmm.
myself and Lamin. And Lamin Maga always wanted radio. He wanted radio from when we were at Radio 1. He had the dream of radio way before I had any dreams of owning any media, really, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So it was during that discussion that the issue of television emerged. And I told the Honorable Minister at the time, Mrs. Nena McDowell-Gay, that I want a television license. And she told me, you must be out of your mind. Television, nobody's thinking about television for Gambia. And me as minister, I cannot get you a television license. What I can get you is radio license. If you want radio license, I can assure you, within as short a period as possible, you can get radio. I don't need to get cabinet approval for that. I can give you approval now. There was no pura in relation to regulating the broadcast sector at the time. And that's how I said, okay, if I cannot have TV, well, let me have radio. So that's how Paradise FM came about. So when we had Paradise FM, I wanted to be a game changer. I always like to be a trailblazer. I don't like to follow or copy people. So I said, okay, we have the radio now. At the time, West Coast radio was the killer radio. West Coast was powerful. You know, you had the sports file with Peter Gomez and Esa Jalo and the guys. You had DJ Mo doing wonders with Gambian music. And then you had the Mickey D's, you had the Bombastics. You had the key, the listenership of West Coast radio was amazing. So I, as a new entrant in the industry, what would I do differently? What can I do? I mean, and the operation of radio was so sophisticated. And I
Mm-hmm.
have been on radio, mark you, since around 1994, 95. I did not do radio until that time. I was television. When I moved to GRTS, I stopped radio altogether. So I said to myself, how do I change the game?
Mm-hmm.
The narrative was at the time, um, how do we promote Gambian music? Remember, I had Mediamatic and I was doing so much with the artists.
Right.
So the first thing we did, it was myself, Pamanja C, now at Afri Radio, Ibu Jaite, no, Ibu came later, Osdaj. It was pretty much the three of us, DJ Malta, Nice to be Nice, Sehu B, De Kurubali. So we said to ourselves, what are we going to do differently that West Coast wasn't doing? Because West Coast was the big dog. And I tell you, West Coast was huge. It's still huge, by the way. So I said, okay, let me bring Gambian music to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
So I started first by giving the artists airtime. So Freaky Joe had airtime to play 2 hours a week. Jalex had airtime to play 2 hours a week. T Smalls had airtime to play 2 hours a week. Oluganda had airtime. Egalitarian had airtime. Freaky Joe. I mean, a lot of artists. I just gave 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours to the artists.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of our popularity. All of a sudden, people started to appreciate us because we were doing something different. And instead of being regular DJs, I actually have artists DJing, promoting their fellow artists, and ENC and all the others. ENC is still doing radio, by the way. So all of them came on board as DJs. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing is, if you live in the US, well, you live in the US, but mornings are always incredible on radio in the United States.
Right.
When I was going to Wayne County College in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
there was a show in the morning, Ross Power in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible show. They do a bit of news, a bit of comedy, a bit of humor. And I said, I have to replicate this. People will have to wake up in the morning. And a lot of people told me, you must be out of your mind. Who does a radio program at 7 a.m. in the Gambia? I said, we will do it. So we started King Kiliba in the morning.
Uh-huh.
When we started King Kiliba, that was also an instant success because it was different. It had a lot of humor, it was comic, and people would text. And it was amazing. Students loved it. People look forward to waking up in the mornings and associating with that laughter. And people wondered how we got so much energy that early in the morning. But it was amazing. It was incredible. But this is, looking back now, those are one of the successes. Now coming to Elijah Bora and the guys, we did not start with that. I always believe that the best programs that you can do in a community such as ours is to do programming in our local dialects.
Yes.
So I designed a program called Mang Dinka. It's not Mandinka, but Mang Dinka. I'm not deep, like I don't know so much deep meaning. So Mang Dinka.
Oh.
When we started Mang Dinka, we started it with Kasama Saleh in Sweden, DJ Kasama, and Jalex, and myself. So we started that program, and what we wanted with that program was to do a program that would be uniquely Mandinka. So we began by speaking Mandinka without a foreign language adding to anything. So you wouldn't say any word in English, any word in Wolof or Fula or any language, but pure Mandinka. So we called it Mandinka. Now that show also was extremely popular. So Kasama was in Gambia and started a restaurant business, Tam Tam, and then eventually decided to go back to Sweden. Jalex was very busy with his music business and he was up and down everywhere. And then it became difficult to sustain. I also started to be busy with projects and running the radio and doing other things and the travels and everything. So Elijah Mohammed, I did not know Bora at the time, but I know Mohammed. We called him Yoga Bass at the time. He's friends with my brothers at my mother's house, and he's always there. And he was an interesting chap. I mean, very good conversations all the time, and very funny. He had a very good sense of humor, and his Mandinka is deep. He also had this URR sense of Mandinka. So I said, this kid, if only I could polish him a little bit, I would add a little bit to his feathers and will add value to my programming as well. So I approached him and I asked him to be joining me occasionally. And that's how it started with them. So, like every dog has a tail. So he
Right.
dragged the tail along, which became Bora in the end. And that's how that program changed. And then they started running it after us. And now they are national stars and doing other things.
Mashallah. Wow. Impressive. I mean, like the saying goes, if you want to grow, I mean, you just support other people. It looks like you lifted other people in order to grow, which is great. Talking about the process of license, I know you always wanted to have your own license for your TV, but then you end up having a license for a radio. Now that you have a license for your television, I believe you do. How was the process like?
Well, for me, the journey was a very long one. I did meet President Jammeh over it a couple of times. 2005, I did a proposal that I felt was good, that was reasonable. So I approached the office of the president to meet the president over it. And I got the appointment. I started with the head of state at the time, President Jammeh. We had a lengthy discussion at that time. My ideas were primarily to get a radio station, to get a television station. And, that wasn't what he didn't have any objections to me in my face, really, also. And it was a very good meeting. He did tell me in the meeting that so many Gambians want television stations now. I mean, some of my cabinet members even want TV. But I am not going to give television license to them. He told me with certainty he wasn't going to. But he did tell me at the time, but you are a media person and this is all you know, this is all you do. I don't have any problems for you to get a television license. He did tell me this as well. And of course, I didn't get a license. I mean, if I had, you would have known by now that I had at the time. So I had another meeting with him on the same. He offered me a job at that time, but I told him my interest wasn't in a job. My interest really was in working for myself and knowing fully well that I wouldn't last in the Jammeh government. I would not last. So there was no point to start. Then at the time, he invited the chief of protocol and told the chief of protocol, remind me about him, about this, and we will do this, we will do that. That was the last time I formally saw President Jammeh. And after that, I was not invited to any state functions again. Automatically, I don't know what happened. And I did not get my license. No, I did not at that time. So talking about getting the license now, for me, I was always ready for television. And everybody knew this. It was no secret. I wasn't hiding it. So by the time I started Mediamatic in 2002, it was my journey towards television. So this other one wasn't as difficult. I did meet President-elect Barrow at the time when they shut my radio down. And he was talking about Halifa did inform him at the time that my station was locked down and several radio stations as well. And they were view that the stations were closed because we were in support of Coalition 2016. So when President-elect Barrow met me regarding on the same subject, first thing I told him was, I'm not looking for a job from you. I'm not looking for money from you, but I have this huge dream of owning a television station. When you become president, I want to get television. And then he gave me his word there and then. But obviously, Pura came in the middle, and they came with some cumbersome processes and difficult criteria to get television station. And before I knew it, Mohammed Jah came from nowhere and snatched the #1 position from me. But, but it's all love. It's all love. It's all
It's
love.
all love. Mhm.
Yeah.
Since the inception of Paradise TV, what would you say is your biggest achievement as far as Paradise TV is concerned? Yeah, Paradise TV is concerned.
I don't know really. I'm still finding my feet in the television industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit challenging. Not a bit. It's a lot challenging. I had over the years groomed a lot of people. My assumption was that at the time, when I had license, I would have had everything in place because I would have had the skilled manpower waiting. Little did I know that there was going to be a television station before mine. Little did I know that GRTS will change its service arrangement with its staffing, and then they'll become very attractive. Little did I know that there would be a Star TV or there'll be an MTA. So in my planning process, I was building Mediamatic for television. So I was getting ready to go into full-fledged television, and then would have succeeded because I'm ready. I've been ready. Since 2002 for television. So come 2017, 2018, I would have been waiting for 15 years and I would have had everything in place. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of staff on the way to better salary, better staff, better opportunities elsewhere, to some young people traveling outside of the country and other things. So by the time I had the license, also looking at the expense of television is hugely expensive. So I'm still finding my feet. I'm not sure I should be celebrating success at this point in time with Paradise TV. Maybe if you call me next year, this time, I can tell you something. Right now, I'm still finding my feet, and I'm happy so far. But I'm not sure I can pinpoint a single success to say this is what I've achieved with Paradise TV. I think I'm still finding myself.
You have two shows that are being featured in Paradise TV. One of them you interview important personalities. Like one of the shows is the special interview, and the other one is Haruna, which is actually my favorite. Very inspiring, very interesting. What inspired you? What motivated that show? Because it's unique.
With Harona, it was a reinvention. Um, a lot of people will not remember, but I used to do a show on GRTS called Talking Point, and that's what gave me the name and success at GRTS actually, because everything I was doing before Talking Point was primarily reporting for the news and also doing the request show with Fatou Diba. Talking Point was what brought out the best in me in terms of meeting diplomats. I used to interview a lot of diplomats, a lot of important personalities at the time, and this is now, of course, over 20 years ago. But a lot of people don't remember it because it was that long ago. So Harona is a somewhat reinvention of that. But Harona has been informed by the fact that post Yaya Jammeh, a lot of Gambians are displaced, and we don't have a lot of role models that are national icons and known. So I felt my contribution to New Gambia at the time would be to start to celebrate Gambian successes and do it in an informal, well, semi-formal interview format where we talk about a person's childhood, growing up, education, experiences, yada yada yada. It's a video library, if you will, of who is who of Gambia.
Right.
That was the reasoning behind doing Harona. And I love myself so much I had to name it myself. But in any case, that was how I did Harona, and I'm happy. I've cataloged a lot of Gambians, some of whom are not really known to the larger Gambian community, and that journey is going to continue. I think by amplifying the voices of successful people, we're indirectly inspiring the young generation to copy, to learn, to be mentored by these people, and to become great people for when they grow up. So Harona really is that program of doing a who is who of Gambia on video, and also putting it on YouTube for posterity, that people could learn about these people, their successes, and what they have done globally, continent-wise, in the sub-region, or locally in the Gambia. So you will realize that I am a bit picky about who I feature there, and also wanting to be people who are worthy of examples and that young people could learn from.
Makes sense. Switching gears, we have seen you participate in Gambia Has Decided. Is it right to say Haruna is also a civil rights activist, advocate?
I don't like those name tags personally, but I don't like abuse. I don't like people being denied access and or voice. I naturally always side with an underdog in a situation. Yes, I am a part of Gambia Has Decided, and the reasoning is simple. Elections were held, people voted unanimously for a person. The person won the elections and was denied the presidency. And every decent Gambian would have done anything and everything possible to ensure that that elected president was installed. And that was the reasoning behind Gambia Has Decided. And I'm very proud to have participated in a very little way in that movement.
Does Mr. Harona Drammeh has any, I mean, political ambitions?
No, never. I think politicians are special beings, and I find it very difficult. I'm highly principled, and I can sometimes be erratic, and I don't like politicking in our country the way it's done. I love politics, by the way, and I'm actually doing a program on politics at the moment. But I love it to debate. I love it to argue. I love it to analyze situations. I love it to get a better understanding of the reasonings why politicians do what they do and what happens in politics, what happens in government, and also be able to, in my job, be able to deliver and be able to do analysis and be a keen follower of politics. To be an elected official in the Gambia, I doubt I will ever do that. I'm not interested. I have no ambitions for such. Not now, and I doubt I will in the future. I don't think politics would be for me. I may be able to work with politicians. That's something I may love to do because I do branding, I do communications, and I do a lot of PR work. So if my services were required by a politician, I may do that kind of work. But to be elected myself and to be voted in office, I don't think I'll ever be interested in that.
As a media personality, I also see that you're the CEO of Smart Spaces, which is a real estate company. Can you tell us a bit about that?
One of the lady, I don't have regrets in my life except for Smart Spaces. That was one thing I got into that I should not have ever ventured into it. I did not have as much knowledge as I thought I had at the time. And I have lost tremendously to Smart Spaces. I lost a lot of money. I did a lot of legal battles. I still am fighting with some things with Smart Spaces. That's one of the worst decisions I've made in my life. So I don't really like talking about Smart Spaces. It's an utter failure.
Got you. Understandable. We also have seen work that you're doing towards the awareness of coronavirus or COVID-19. Can you tell us a bit about that as well?
Well, the same. My everyday role is to inform, educate, and entertain. And in that role, anything that happens that would affect my constituents, in this case, our listenership or our viewership, we should be in the middle of it. And I love Gambia, and I have no nationalities of any other country. I have no residence permit in any other country in the world but the Gambia. I hold the same Gambian passport and keep renewing it all the time, so my entire life. So for me, anything that affects Gambia as a country affects me directly. So it's simple to make a decision like that. COVID-19 has ravaged countries around the world, has really damaged a lot of powerful economies. And to do anything in our power, to educate our masses, to understand, to be aware, to protect themselves against it, because I believe prevention would be our only option at this point in time, and that our health facility is not that robust or not that equipped We don't have the would be needed expertise to fight, and therefore advocacy, sensitization, education would be what would be the way forward for us. And that is simple for me to join the fight, to join the crusade, to join informing and educating my audience all about it.
And I mean, we've seen people in your position or other people that are well off may not even care, but you will be delivering food to the underprivileged. I mean, where does the passion come from to support and help other people? We have seen people with a lot of money or companies or they're well off, but they're not doing that. But you have taken the responsibility to help other people by delivering food and giving other items. Where does that passion come from?
Personally, I have not, during this COVID-19 period, delivered food items to anyone.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, and I like to make that clear.
mm-hmm,
But my medium was used. Sister Ulay had done an initiative by herself. It was her idea. It wasn't mine. I'm
mm-hmm,
not going to take ownership of it.
mm-hmm,
And worked with people like Malik Mbai and other people
mm-hmm.
to lobby for funding and then help some disadvantaged communities and people that they felt were in need. So I will not take credit for that. It wasn't me personally. It was my platform in association with other people that did it.
Got you. We are almost to the end of this interview. Does Haruna have anything, or what would you say to that young person sitting out there watching you today, internationally or nationally, and want to be a media personality or want to be somebody who is going to get into business? What would you say to that person that will motivate him or her to stand up and do what they desire or have a passion for?
I'll say, do it. Just do it. I'll be Nike right now. Just do it. You know, if you have a drive for something,
Mhm,
it's doesn't make any sense at all to have an idea that's in your head that you cannot implement, or an idea that's written in a book that's collecting dust somewhere. I would say do it. You know your strength. Believe in yourself. If you think you can do it, you can do it. Nobody was born with success written all over their face. You may even inherit a lot of money, but unless you have drive for something, you have passion, be willing to work and be willing to lead by example. Work hard and deliver, deliver, deliver. But if you have a drive for anything, drive it home. Do it. No matter how small it is that you're going to get started. What matters is starting. Start. Don't look back. Don't stop. Hard times are going to come. Failures are going to come. You're going to lose money sometime. Your ego may be bruised. You may be challenged. You may be pushed to the wall. Anything and everything is possible. I like the story of Apple and Steve Jobs.
mhm,
A few years ago, Apple was going to file bankruptcy. Its biggest competition, Microsoft, in the person of Bill Gates, came to its rescue. How much is Apple worth today? It would have failed. We wouldn't have remembered it. We would have known the Samsungs and the other brands, but we wouldn't have known Apple today.
mhm.
But Apple changed the world by their product, by their service. But it was almost failed. Jack Ma, the owner of Alibaba, one of my favorite people, that man has been turned down from jobs so many times. He was called hopeless, useless. He's been kicked out of universities. He's failed so many times in everything that he does. But he persevered. He continued. He believed what nobody believed, that he will make success. Today, he's a multi-billionaire in dollars. That's what perseverance can do for a person. So get started, don't look back, keep going, and success will come your way.
Thinking in hindsight, last question. Thinking in hindsight, if Mr. Haruna Drammeh was to do anything differently, what would that be?
I would never have gone into real estate.
That's your biggest regret, huh?
Yes, the only one.
Got you.
I would have done everything else. But that one I wouldn't have done. That's a mess. You have no idea how big the mess is.
Wow. Any last words?
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor, and I'm very grateful for having you. And we appreciate you accepting our invitation to be on this talk show today. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you, lady.
Thank you. And you take care now.
You too.
Bye. That was Mr. Harona Drammeh, the CEO and founder of Paradise TV. And also, as you all know, Haruna is a household name in the Gambia, so he doesn't need much introduction. But for the benefit of our international viewers, Haruna Drammeh is a TV personality who has gone through a lot of hurdles, but yet still standing, as you heard from the horse's mouth. He started a restaurant business that went down the drain, but he did not give up. He decided to continue and fight again. Like they always say, the downfall of a man is not the end of his life. So keep that in mind. If you're out there and you're looking for something to do and you just want to give up on yourself, please don't. You will get to success someday. Until I come your way again, it's your girl, Lady Bar, and this is your Talk to Lady show, coming to you live on LSTV1. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the comments. Really appreciate it. Take care and bye for now.
We often admire people's successes, but never take the time to explore their challenges. Talk to Lady brings out the inside stories of the peaks and valleys of our daily struggles. A weekly show that features people and stories from all walks of life.
I probably don't look like I chopped cotton or picked cotton, but I did. And now this is a $500,000 probably home, up to $500,000 home.
You'll hear success stories from rags to riches that will inspire you to aspire to be great. Be the first to know, only on LSTV1.